The video you're about to watch is actually part of a bigger course which is called ClickUp Fundamentals Mastery, and if you want to get access, it's absolutely free. You can find the link in the description below. And by the way, if you need help with your ClickUp setup, you can also find the link to schedule a 30-minute discovery session in the comment section below this video. With that said, let's get to the class. We've learned the step 1 of the process first framework. Let's dive into the step number 2, which we said last time is identify deliverables. Now, if you remember, what we did during the step number 1 is we visualized the current process. We basically said, how do we do work, right? This is how we do work. And again, maybe I didn't mention this last time, but you need to specify a single process, right? You need to make sure that you're working on a single process at a time. That will make it just easier to make ClickUp work for your company, and you're not trying to build it for the whole company all at once, but you're basically selecting a very specific part of the business, which is a process, which has its start and has its end, and you're implementing ClickUp for that specific process. So that's the power of step number 1, which is visualizing and answering the question, how is work happening right now? The step number 2, which is called identifying deliverables. And now you might be saying, like, what is that? And I'm going to explain, and I'm going to show you actually an example. If you remember at the beginning of this course, when we're learning ClickUp basics, we discussed that ClickUp tasks are the foundation or the building blocks of our ClickUp. And they can represent anything you want. They can represent your admin tasks, your job openings, or applications. They can be anything. And this is why we're answering this step, because many times when teams are implementing ClickUp, they're using ClickUp as their to-do list. They would just have a bunch of things that need to happen today, tomorrow, in a week, right, as action items or admin tasks, but they would not have that high level visibility of what's going on in the business or in that specific business process. And this is why step 2 is so crucial, because in addition to tracking our action items and to-do tasks, we also want to track the deliverables, meaning things that will tell us what's the overall status over here. So if you think about the hiring process, like we're hiring people for different positions, right? The 2 deliverables that come to mind is the first one, the job opening, right? I want to know how many job openings did we hire for the last month, or how many job openings are currently open. The second idea for the deliverable here is the application, because I want to know how many applicants apply to this position. I want to know how many applications did we reject versus did we approve. You know, what is the quality of application that we're receiving, and what are the best sources from where we want to get this application. If you remember all those pieces and components that we discussed last time in terms of tracking statuses, tracking custom fields, those all come here, because you're basically answering the question like, you know, from what source did all the applications come from? Well, this is where the custom fields come into play. Or what is the statuses? This is where, or what is the stage of the process where the applications are at, which is where the statuses come into play. So again, everything we learned during the fundamentals and the basics of ClickUp is going to be applied here. But at this point, we're not thinking about ClickUp. We're thinking about what are the pieces or tracking items or deliverables that we want to track in ClickUp, right? Or just we want to track as part of that process. For my hiring process, it was pretty simple, job openings and applications. For your process, it can be opportunities, leads, it can be invoices, it can be vendors, it can be suppliers, it can be part numbers, it can be anything you can think about, right? And it's worth tracking. So the way I usually do this exercise is I go back to the diagram that I have during the first step, and I start going step by step. And I basically say, all right, so prepare a job opening draft. What is the deliverable that I'm working with here? This is a job opening, all right? So that's going to be the first thing I will be tracking. I go down there and I take a note. The next thing, I share that job opening draft with the HR director. Again, I'm still working with the same deliverable. It's job opening. Then my HR director reviews it. It's still the same deliverable, so we're good to go with the same deliverable. And then I post it. All right, that's going to be different, probably different stages or different statuses in our ClickUp account, right? For the job opening. Now, if I move further in the process, I can see at first one of the steps saying review applications and shortlist candidates. Now, this is something new. I have not yet tracked applications. This is why I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to also know that I will be tracking my applications, right? And this is how you come up with this idea. So you just basically look at the process and you see what are the things that we need to track throughout the process. Like, what are the things that I want to know about this specific process? Like, what are the job openings and where they're standing? What are the applications and how many we have, where they're standing? And if you go through a process, you might find 5, 4, 6, maybe more different deliverables. Maybe you're going to find just one, and that's fine. But the main thing here is not only focusing on tracking the action items, which are basically the to-do tasks that you need to complete, but also tracking the deliverables that you want to track throughout the process. All right, so this exercise, again, we're not yet focused on ClickUp. We're not asking any questions about ClickUp. We're basically saying, what are the deliverables? And I also like to say, and again, you might be, whenever you're using this mirror board, you can use this template. You can have a piece of paper and pen. You can even do this straight directly in ClickUp, doesn't really matter. But I also like to brainstorm ideas about the different stages that these deliverables go through. This way I kind of have a better understanding of like, you know, how it's gonna look in ClickUp. So for example, for job opening, if I go through the process at the top, I can clearly see that it goes through stages like draft, when I need to draft it, goes through awaiting approval, go through approved, posted, canceled. So again, all those stages, I'm just generating these ideas and generating this or coming up with these stages just to answer the question like, what do I want to see about the job openings, or what phases does it need to go through to give me more understanding of where we're standing. The same with application. You might want to think about what are the process stages that it go through. Again, it's absolutely up to you. There is no right or wrong answer. You can have just a few statuses if it feels better and more and easier. You can have a little bit more statuses like I have here on the right. So again, it really doesn't matter what statuses you're coming up with or stages of the process you're coming up with. The main thing that it actually helps you track the progress and have that high level overview of what's going on in the business. So again, remember, if you're doing this as a business owner, you're doing this not only for you to have the high level overview, but we're also going to have the things, the day-to-day things that people need to complete. So that's kind of two parts of the system. And if you're implementing this as a part of the team, right, as a project manager, operations manager, you need to keep in mind that the leadership team, the business owner, the operations director, those people need to have a high level overview. They don't want to dive into detail into every single task to figure out where we're standing. So these deliverables are going to help a lot. They help me build great structures, and I'm going to show you how to transform these deliverables together with the process that we identified here into the ClickUp structure and how to design ClickUp structure that will actually make sense. So this is what we'll be doing during the next class, during the step number 3, which is called design ClickUp structure. So I'll see you there in a second.